31, starting in verse 1. So Moses went and spoke these words to all Israel. And he said to them, I am 120 years old today. I am no longer able to come and go. And the Lord has said to me, you shall not cross this Jordan. It is the Lord your God who will cross ahead of you. He will destroy these nations before you, and you shall dispossess them. Joshua is the one who will cross ahead of you, just as the Lord has spoken. The Lord will do to them just as he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, and to their land when you destroyed them. The Lord will deliver them up before you, and you shall do to them according to all the commandments which I have commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or tremble at them. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Then Moses called to Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall give it to them as an inheritance. The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. This morning, as we continue our reflections in the life of Joshua, our last reflection, we focused on the idea of hearing with faith and how Joshua was a man of rest because his hearing was united with faith. And yet there's something interesting here. Something that the people of Israel needed and something that Joshua needed. Be strong and courageous. To the people, Moses says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or tremble at them, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. To Joshua, he says, be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall give it to them as an inheritance. The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. What I like about this and what's interesting, why tell them to be courageous and not fear or be dismayed? It's because of what courage is. Courage doesn't mean that there is no fear. Courage means stepping forward in the face of fear. Courage, by definition, means stepping forward in the face of fear. And so, by the Spirit, Moses, he must have known. Maybe he was thinking back on the 10 spies. This time, no spies were sent out. They already knew what was there. Maybe Moses had a concern. Maybe it was the Spirit of God. But what he tells the people is the Lord will deliver them up before you, and you shall do to them according to all the commandments which I have given you. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or tremble at them, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. And he says a very similar thing to Joshua. What's interesting then is that we talked about how Joshua was a man of rest. He was ready to go fight 40 years ago. 40 years ago, Joshua was in this very same position, ready to go into the promised land, got people ready to go into the promised land, and he was ready. He told the people, he told them, if God is for us, then he will deliver this land into our hands. Their protection has been removed. They will be our prey. God will do it. And yet, he tells the people, be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. He tells Joshua, be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them to you. You shall give it to them as an inheritance. You know, the command is a little different between the two. To the people, he says, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid or tremble at them, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. And before that, he says, the Lord will deliver them up before you. So the people's not being afraid is about the fight. It's about the battle. It's about the Amorites. It's about the Canaanites. It's about the enemies that are ahead of them. And it was the people's struggle before, as they were afraid of the giants in the land. Joshua's fear is a little different. For you shall go with this people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give to them. You shall give it to them as an inheritance. The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not forsake you. Do not fear, be dismayed. What encourages me about this morning is that Joshua was a man who got afraid. That's what encourages me this morning. So far, we've talked about the characteristics of Joshua. All these really awesome, under authority, part of a team, wise, leadership, understands spiritual matters. We've talked about how he was close to Moses and close to God. We've talked about how he was a man of rest. And we've talked about all these great characteristics. We've talked about all these things that are like, wow, I would follow that guy. But we also see that he's afraid. Why would you tell someone to not fear or be dismayed? Why tell someone be strong, courageous? The Lord repeats it to Joshua later. Be strong and courageous. Joshua repeats it to the people. Be strong and courageous. In fact, the exact phrase, be strong and courageous, occurs 13 times in the Bible. In Deuteronomy 31:6, be strong, courageous, do not be afraid or tremble at them, for the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. In Deuteronomy 31:7, then Moses called to Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give to them, and you shall give it to them as an inheritance. And listen to this morning. I think I need to hear this because fear is a dominant part of my life. Deuteronomy 31:23, then he commissioned Joshua the son of Nun and said, be courageous be strong and courageous, for you shall bring the sons of Israel into the land which I swore to them, and I will be with you. Joshua 1:6, be strong, courageous, for you shall give this people possession of the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not tremble or be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:18, anyone who rebels against your command and does not obey your words and all that you command him shall be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. Joshua 10:25. Joshua then said to them, do not fear or be dismayed. Be strong and courageous, for thus the Lord will do to all your enemies with whom you fight. What's interesting is that phrasing carries forward 3 times into Chronicles. Then you will prosper if you're careful to observe the statutes and the ordinances the Lord commanded Moses concerning Israel. Be strong, courageous, do not fear nor be dismayed. Then David said to his son Solomon, be strong and courageous and act. Do not fear nor be dismayed, for the Lord God, my God, is with you. He will not fail you nor forsake you until all the work for the service of the house of the Lord is finished. 2 Chronicles 32:27. Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be dismayed because the king of Assyria, nor because of all the horde that is with him, for the one with us is greater than one with him. And then it occurs, and there are some other matches. Joshua 1:7, only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do all according to the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, so that you may have success wherever you go. And 2 Samuel 10:12, be strong and let us show ourselves courageous for the sake of our people and for the cities of our God, and may the Lord do what is good in his sight. 1 Chronicles 19:13, be strong and let us show ourselves courageous for the sake of our people and for the cities of our God, and may the Lord do what is good in his sight. 13 direct matches, 3 matches where there's other words in between. And what encourages me this morning, what I really need to hear, there's a song from when I was in college, and the chorus goes like this. Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For my love will follow you wherever you go. Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For my love will follow you wherever you go. And to be honest, and why am I strong and courageous? What keeps being repeated? For the Lord your God is with you, shall be with you. God says, I will be with you. As we look at these verses, it's again and again. The Lord your God is the God who goes before you. For you shall go with this land of the people which the Lord has sworn. Then God, commissioned Joshua the son of Nun. For you shall give this possession which I swore, God swore. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And for thus the Lord will do to all your enemies with whom you fight. The predication is that God is with us. And so we should be courageous. And we should be strong. That we should not fear or tremble. That we should go forward in the face of fear. And as we do it, we should banish all fear. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. Deuteronomy 36:1. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or tremble at them. For the Lord your God is the one who goes with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. What is the them in my life today? What is the them? For the people of Israel, it was the giants. It was the walls. It was the hordes. It was the multiple nations that they had to defeat. In the days of David, in the days of the kings, there was a time where it was the Assyrians. In the days of Solomon, in building the temple of God, maybe it was the greatness of the temple, the bigness of the temple, the responsibility of the task. For Joshua, it seems like it was leading the people. He wasn't afraid of fighting the giants. I think Joshua was the kind of man that if God had said, go to the city, it's filled with giants by yourself, but don't worry, you're going to kill them all. I'm with you. Joshua would have been like, cool. Can I take Caleb just because he's got the same heart and I think he'll have some fun with this too? And I think Joshua was the kind of man who has a heart that the fighting wasn't the issue. The battle wasn't the issue. The warfare wasn't the issue. He's ready to go. But there was something about leading the people and completing the task of giving them the land that caused Moses, his mentor, his friend, his leader, his master, and then later God, to tell him to be strong and courageous. Don't tremble or be dismayed. And Moses tells him, because God is going to do it. God's going to be with you. I can see Moses sitting down with Joshua. And again, what I'm saying is extra biblical. I can see, I wonder, did they ever have a conversation? Was there ever a point where Joshua and Moses are talking and Moses is like, Joshua, I'm getting close to being done. And you're it. You're taking over. And Joshua looks at him and says, I've watched you, Moses. It's hard to lead these people. It's hard to lead people. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know. I don't know. And did they ever have that conversation? And so in front of the whole nation of Israel, in front of everybody, in front of the whole nation, then Moses called to Joshua and said to him in the sight of all the Israel, be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall give it to them as an inheritance. The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. In front of the whole nation, in front of everyone, he looks at him and he says, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. God's going to be with you and you're going to do it. And I wonder, I don't think it was a buck up. I wonder if it was the heart of a father. I wonder if it was the friend. I wonder if it was the leader. I wonder if it was the man who loved this guy. Looking at him and encouraging him, because he's literally doing that. Encourage means to put courage into someone. It means to put the ability to step forward in the face of fear. And in front of everyone, he wants to encourage him and say, you're going to do it. I believe in you. The Lord is with you. And the Lord affirms the words of Moses later by coming to Joshua and saying, Joshua, be strong and courageous. And the conversation's the same. You will give it to this people. And I also love that he says it in front of everybody else, because I especially because I wonder, because we've talked about how Joshua was on a team and he's on a new team now. Were there days where he was struggling, where he wasn't being strong and courageous? But Eleazar or Caleb or one of the others could come to him and say, Joshua, be strong and courageous. The Lord's with you. Do you remember what Moses said? Do you remember what God said? And I wonder if Joshua would be like, yep. I can picture him going to Eleazar the priest and being like, Eleazar, I need a word from God. I'm just struggling. I don't know. And Eleazar, I wonder if he looks at him and says, you don't need a word from God. You need to remember. You're a man who remembers, Joshua. What did Moses tell you? He told me to be strong and courageous because God will be with me. What did God tell you? He said to be strong and courageous because God will be with me. So hear the word of the Lord. Be strong and courageous, for God is with you. Go take some time and meditate on it. I know you're busy. I know you have a nation to lead. But go take some time and meditate on that. This morning, if you've heard the Lord, even if it's united with faith, maybe that faith needs to go deeper. Maybe there's something more that we need. This morning, it's okay to fear. It's okay to have a big task in front of you and be struggling. You know, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane struggled. Doesn't say he was afraid. There was no be strong and courageous for Jesus. I don't know that he was afraid, because that would mean he wasn't in faith. Faith is the opposite of fear. But what I love is Jesus didn't need the be strong. He didn't need the courage part, but he needed the strong part. And I don't know that he needed to be told to be strong, but it says angels came and strengthened him, came and ministered to him. I think it says strengthened him. This morning, where do I need to hear be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified, for the Lord your God is with you. And here's the key to it. It's the same as our last reflection together. This is a springboard off of rest being hearing united with faith. If there's a place where Joshua was afraid, it's because hearing was not united with the fullness of faith. There was, when Jonathan and his armor bearer went, the people of Israel are afraid. Hearing is not united with faith. The people of Israel are afraid. And so there's a battle being fought, but they won't go fight it in trust with God. So Jonathan takes his armor bearer, and he says to him, let us go to the Philistines and see what God will do. Armor bearer goes, and he says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to call to them. And if they say, come up to us, we know the Lord's delivered them into our hands. And if they say, we're going to come down to you, then God hasn't delivered them into our hands, and we're running. And they say, come up to us. And so they go and they kill about 20 men. And the Lord starts miraculously moving, and there's a miraculous move of God. The enemy gets confused, starts killing each other, starts fleeing, and Israel wins. Because there was a great amount of fear around Jonathan, but hearing was united with faith. He knew the Lord. If God filled this sign, it was a sign that God was with him, and he went forward. I think the key to this is, do we know that God is with us? That particular word of the Lord. And wherever you're struggling, your marriage, your kids, a sin habit, your job, maybe it's an exam you have coming up. Maybe you're listening today and you've got to go speak in front of your class. Maybe your finances are dwindling. Maybe your health is deteriorating. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a legal issue. Whatever it may be, God is with you. And we need to hear that and unite it with faith, because if we hear that and it's united with faith, we will not tremble, we will not be dismayed, and we will see the giants fall. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you.